Hey everybody, I'm Tommy Scoville and you're on the lifeboat. I wanted to go live today real quick. This isn't going to be a particularly long live feed, but since the very beginning of the lifeboat, we have been talking about the numbers from the opioid epidemic and the opioid crisis. And we've been getting lied to about these for a really, really long time. And in the very beginning, we were saying we thought it was at about 180 overdose deaths a day. Hey, Christy, good to see you. We thought it was about 100, 180 overdose deaths daily, and it was being severely underreported at the time. The numbers then started going up, and about the time that we were saying it was 500, people were saying, that it was 300, and I have said from Jump Street that what you want to do, if you want to cut through all of the BS, the easiest way to do it is to just simply pick a city, right? And start following that city and the number of deaths that you read about during a holiday or whatever. And it'll give you an idea, because that would be one. There are some places that are pretty good about reporting. Now, before you get too much patting on the back as far as the reporting thing goes, one thing is kind of essential to remember anyway about all of this is that there are certain things that aren't going to get reported, because as far as they're concerned, it has nothing to do with a fentanyl overdose. But if somebody nods out at the wheel and has an accident, kills themselves and a bunch of other people, that's not being factored into that equation. So when you really get down to it, the number of people that are dying are just absolutely unbelievable. But if we just take it at its face value, right, there's been a paradigm shift there's a reason right now that we're seeing way more fentanyl overdoses than we're seeing anything else. And when fentanyl first came onto the scene, and boy, I said fentanyl a lot, didn't I? We're not getting monetized on this puppy. When fentanyl first came onto the scene, it was being cut with everything under the sun. And it was being mixed into a lot of different things. And right now, the trend is toward people doing straight fent, right? Buying it in powder, just getting straight fentanyl, or people who are getting that nice cocktail of xylazine and fentanyl. The stuff that they're calling trank, the stuff that's eating skin off of people and is so resistant to any kind of what do you call it? There's Narcan does absolutely nothing to them. And that's kind of a huge deal because, without the antidote, the overdose deaths are getting higher and higher and higher. But in San Francisco, which is a place that obviously has a very serious problem with drugs and a very serious problem with fentanyl in particular. But they just came out and had an emergency meeting, because the numbers that they're seeing right now are scaring the crap out of them in a way that they've not seen before. 473 people have already overdosed and died in San Francisco this year. And they're saying that it's going to be, in excess of 800. It's going to end up being somewhere between 800 and 1,000 in one city in the U.S. Now, is it a city that there's a lot of dope in? It absolutely is. But to be clear, I grew up in a town of 800 people. And this morning I Googled it, and it had the name of the town and then, drug treatment and all of these things. And it's a town of 850 people, in a state that, there's no place on this map anymore that fentanyl hasn't touched. There's nowhere on this planet now that isn't being touched by this stuff. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. Oh my word, would you look at this? Everybody stop what you're doing. Everybody stop what you're doing so that we can say hello to our sister here. We are so glad that you are here and you are chatting. This is something, people, that we've been working on for a minute, and I felt so bad about. I really did. This was something that I have been wrestling with in a really big way, because we could not get it figured out so that she could chat here. And you know what? This channel's not fun if you can't chat. It's kind of a big deal for the lifeboat, right? We get together and we talk with one another. It's kind of what we do. Welcome to the boat. officially. She's been here a really long time. But welcome to the boat officially, everybody. This is not a newcomer. Might look that way, but this is not a newcomer. This is somebody that's been here for a hot minute. But so at almost 500 deaths already this year, this is going to be a record year for San Francisco. And I was talking with somebody about this morning, and was saying, I think I may go live because it at least gives you some Lene. Yes, I figured that's what that thing did. But at about 500 deaths, I said I'd like to come out and I'd like to put these numbers out because I think it's going to give people an opportunity to realize that here's one city and here's one set of numbers that we actually know are somewhat factual. I guarantee you they're underreported. They are underreported. I promise you they are. This kind of death lends itself to underreporting in a very big way, because there are just some cases where it gets chalked up to other things, or if it wasn't an overdose, right? If the person just nods out and causes an accident that kills himself and someone else, they don't call that a fentanyl death, but most assuredly it's a fentanyl death, right? It's not an overdose. They just nodded out and killed somebody. It's pretty much, this is affecting, the reason that I'm bringing up all these ancillary deaths, because this is affecting this country, and this is affecting the world in a way that just, like, we've not seen this. This is not something that we're accustomed to. And it's just going to keep getting worse. Every single time they test this dope, the purity of it is getting stronger. The stuff that they're putting on the street is getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, which would make you think that maybe the price would be going up, right? Everything that they're doing flies in the face of anything that is logical business. They're putting an excellent product out, and they're making the product stronger and stronger to the point where it will kill the end user, right? Their customer. But they continue to make it stronger, and they continue to make it stronger, and they just, it almost looks like they don't care if they kill off every single person that's doing this. Think there might be a chance of that? Hey, squirrel. I think there's a damn good chance that that's exactly what's going on. I don't think they care one lick whether or not this stuff is getting people high or this is killing people. I think that is the design. I think that this was a poison that's being shipped in from China because it is the first salvo in attacking our entire way of life. And I don't just mean America. This is one of those rare instances where I am talking to the entire audience here at the Lifeboat, because I don't care where you live. This is a reality right now, and it is a pretty damn serious reality right now. This is sadly the biggest threat that has ever faced our country. I don't mean drug threat, the biggest threat ever. And if you think that that's hyperbole, or you think it's something that I pump up because I have a drug channel and an addiction channel, so it's in my best interest, right, to make this story maybe a little bit bigger than it really is. And that is one of those things that I can understand why people would assume that. But the reason I say this is the biggest threat that's ever faced our country is right now, from 18 years of age to 50 years of age, the number one cause of death in this country is fentanyl. And this has very much turned me into a one-issue voter. I don't care about any of the rest of it at this point. I really don't. Every day in this country, depending on who you believe, and when the numbers fully come shaking out, you're going to see that this is way different than people think it is. But depending on who you believe, we're looking at somewhere between 300 to 500 deaths every single day in this country that wouldn't be dead if there were no fentanyl in this country. Now, would a few of them OD on other things? Yeah, there's an excellent chance, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. But the game used to be that if the guy next to you overdosed, you could bring him back, right? I mean, that was a possibility. And you could keep him alive long enough for him to come back if you didn't have Narcan. If you just slap the crap out of the person that was overdosing and you give them sternum rubs and you make them very uncomfortable. If you do things that are super uncomfortable, the body gasps and you get that and then you rub the chest a little bit and you say, talk to me. And you get the person to stand up and you walk them around, and that's all gone. Now, when the person next to you overdoses, they're not coming back. I mean, if you've got 7 or 8, 9, maybe 10 doses of Narcan on you, to counteract the fentanyl, maybe, I don't know, maybe. But also, again, if this is the tranq dope, if there's xylazine cut into this, that's the end of it. Plain and simple. Once again, get back to the business model. We've got a drug that's killing a lot of the people that are doing it. Hello, squirrel. Good to see you. We have a drug that's killing, way too many of our customers. So what are we going to do? Well, into this pain medication that was designed for an animal, not for a human being, right? Far too strong for any human being. We're going to cut in a tranquilizer that was designed for horses and cows. Equine and bovine tranquilizer. Are you hearing me on this? Xylazine is to knock out cows, right? You realize what a cow weighs? We're talking about tons, right? Thousands of pounds, 4,000-6,000 pounds, right? Huge, massive animals that you're going to fire into the muscle of. This drug is not meant to go into human beings. It's not. And it's certainly not meant to be injected into human beings. And the wound care that is necessary for people. In cities across America, there are wound centers that are popping up that have become a necessity because there are so many people that get infections, and there's a misconception that often pops up among people in that community, people who are in active addiction with needle drugs, that if you go to the doctor and you say to them, hey, I got this thing on my arm and it's looking kind of infected, that they're going to go in the back and go, hey, we got one here, come get them. That somehow the doctor is going to turn you over to the police, and there's going to be some kind of, obviously that never happens, but because of that fear, there are people that are avoiding doctors right now. So people are setting up instead these wound care centers. And there are a lot of people in this country right now that are having body parts amputated every single day. There are people in this country that are losing a leg or losing an arm. Chrissy says, growing up on a ranch, I know people who used to use tranquilizers meant for the horses. You know what? This kind of crap's been going on for a long time, right? I'm sorry, Izzy. That's really tough. That is really, really tough. As I was saying, I'm not surprised by that. This has been going on for a very long time. Back in the early days of steroid use, almost all of the juice that guys were getting, like the testosterone and things, were all equine. It was all stuff actually made for horses. And people used to use that back then. And there's a number of other drugs that people used to buy, pain medications that people used to go and buy from veterinarians. I would probably not name a bunch of them because I think some of them are probably still available, and it's not a great thing to do. Oh, Izzy, that's, you know what? That's our friend from Texas. He's been with us a long time, and a great human being, somebody we're very, very proud to have on the crew of the lifeboat. So yeah, welcome to the lifeboat, Izzy. We're glad you're here. We really are. And I'm so sorry for the loss. Heather Joy, good to see you. Heather, I'm sorry, I had to go live. If you're just getting here and you're wondering what the hell we're doing live, some news came out today. It was either today or yesterday out of San Francisco. They just did a press conference because the number of deaths in San Francisco from drug overdose have never been higher, ever. And this year is going to absolutely decimate the previous records. And the crazy thing, people, is this: you're not going to find a city in North America that has thrown more money at this problem than San Francisco. You're not. I mean, this is now the crazy thing is you will find cities doing a hell of a lot better, right? You will, but you will not find any cities that threw more money at the problem. And I'm not sure that they did a particularly good job with how the money was spent. Truthfully, I think that there could have been a much different model, a much different model. I mean, if it were my city and they gave me that much money instead of doing some of the just ridiculous campaigns that they've done, I would have a setup where, you know what, come on in, sit down, talk to us. We will get you on medical assisted treatment. We will pay to put you in a rehab. Every single person that wants to come through the door, I'll get you off of this stuff without you hurting. It would have been cheaper. It would have been cheaper to say, I'll pay for every single person that walks through the door to go to any rehab basically in the country. We'll send you to Betty Ford. It still probably would have been cheaper than the amount of money that they blew, and they've got nothing to show for it. What they've got is, people defecating and living on the streets, and it's gotten so out of control. It really has. I am not the law and order, lock them up and throw away the key guy. Trust and believe that is never going to be me, right? Because I think that this is a disease. I don't think that this is. I don't think it's a crime the same way other people do. I really believe that this is a disease and should be treated as such. That said, I still think you gotta kind of draw a line in the sand, and you can't allow people to just slam dope outside, and you can't allow people to do things in front of God and the whole world. Kids, you see kids waiting at bus stops and guys shooting up 20 feet away from them. If that doesn't turn your stomach, I mean, look, I was in that life. I was. It's still something that absolutely repulses me every single time I see it. But we need a paradigm shift in this country, and it needs to be a massive one. It really does. And sadly, it has to start with us. It really has no other place to start because nobody else gets it. Right? This is not a problem that gets addressed beautifully by people that don't understand. Now, people who don't understand, if they just brought in a group of people that did, I am learning more and more every day that the more I spend time talking to people who, we affectionately call normies, the people that have been able to get through life without doing dope. The more that I talk to normies, the more I'm starting to realize that there's so much less that divides us, and there's way more that is so similar. We all do the same things. Normies are doing the exact same things we're doing. They're just not doing it with dope. But we've all got those things in our life that have gone a little bit farther than we would like them to, and they're out of control. We're no longer in control of what's going on, and that I think affects a lot of people. So many young people die. It's so sad. Michelle, it really is. It really, really is. And I'll tell you something. When we start talking about the numbers, and then we say that's 18 to 50, right? It's the number one cause of death between the ages of 18 and 50. However, it is the fastest growing cause of death in people under the age of 18, right? It is the fastest growing cause of death. So it's starting to kill a lot of people who are not adults. And sometimes that's accidental exposure. And sometimes it's just kids getting high, because there's a lot of kids, I was doing dope way before I was 18. And this is what's out there. This is what is on the street. You never know what people do behind. No, you don't. You definitely don't know what people do. And I'm kind of cool not knowing what people do behind closed doors. Some people seem to want to know, but I think stores closing left and right, stores running away left and right, because they don't arrest people for robbing them, right? They're not doing anything to try to stop the small theft, what they call anything under $1,000. Now, if it's your store and somebody comes in and there's 7 of them and they all take $1,000 item, that doesn't feel like small theft to the person that owns that store. It feels like kind of big theft in a little bit, right? It feels a little bit bigger on the theft thing. So, yeah. but it's the numbers are starting to come out, people, and they're starting to be real. So it isn't an "I told you so" because there's no joy whatsoever in being right on something like this. It really isn't. That's not what it is. But we on the boat will always be very real about this problem and this crisis, and we're going to forever tell you what we think the numbers are, and maybe we won't sound as crazy as we go forward because each time we tend to raise the number and say they're not telling you the truth. It sounds like we're trying to pump this up because it's good fodder for more views or whatever. But the truth of the matter is there are way more people dying from this drug epidemic than they're letting on. Way more people. And I don't know if you can point to anything they're doing about it. Send me an email. I'd be happy to do a show where I talk about the fantastic strides that we're doing trying to stop this stuff from coming into the country, or highlighting a program that's doing a fantastic job in getting people off of dope. That's more fun for me than this. I would much rather talk about battles won. I don't think the war on drugs is winnable, but I think we can win a crap load of battles. And in doing so, I know, right? Squirrel wants to slap the crap out of me is what she wants to do. She has been, I don't know. She's just really been on one. Yeah, we were saying that earlier, Michelle. It's not just the cities. The town that I grew up is one of the smallest towns in the country. I mean, it really is a small town. It's got 800 people in it. It's not a big town, but drug use has touched every single part of this country. Every single part of this country. I don't care where you live. They talk these days and they say everywhere is a border town, and what they mean is whatever drugs are coming across the border and whatever people are dealing with, here and in Texas and in any other of the border states, you're going to be dealing with it in New Hampshire. You're going to be dealing with it in Maine. You're going to be dealing with it in the Carolinas and everywhere else. She just does not want to play the game. Now she'll want to eat my headphones. People, I'm probably going to call this one. I really just wanted. I grew up in a town of 2,500, and it's been getting worse and worse. Carol, I know. And this is, I squirreled away on something earlier, but I was talking to somebody earlier today about this, and I was telling them about the numbers from San Francisco and how bad they are, and this is going to break a record. And they said, where do you think that's not happening? Where do you think there's a place in America that this year isn't going to be a record for the most overdoses they've ever had? Do you think there's a place in this country where that's going to drop? And I can't think of any place that's doing that fantastic a job that maybe there's a chance that this does actually go down. I don't see it happening. I wish it was. I wish there were places we could point to and say, that's how you do it. That's the model for cutting down on the use of these chemicals. But so far, I haven't seen it. There's no place that I've seen that is killing it. If I'm wrong, if somebody hears this and they think, let me tell you something, you're right. Look at this. Even the Amish have drug addiction among them. It's the truth. I mean, this has not. There's not a part of our society that has not been touched by this. There isn't. It would be really nice if there was, but my hometown of 17,000 is heroin infested. I was there last week. It was terrifying, and the amount of crime just happening in broad daylight. Valerie, and the scariest part is this, it's probably not heroin anymore. Even the heroin isn't heroin anymore. It's so much cheaper for them to just produce fentanyl than it is for them to make heroin, right? Heroin is a process, and it requires land, and it requires all of the things that go along with that. But we can outlaw Quaaludes, but they can't outlaw fentanyl. K-Town, Cosmic Gypsy. Bring back the 714, and can we just get rid of fentanyl? Yeah, I think, it's interesting because the methaqualone, I guess, is just a much more difficult recipe to make in your garage because fentanyl, and the analogs, because it's not really fentanyl, but these are like bathtub fentanyl. It's the same thing, but it's an analog of fentanyl. But these fentanylogs that they're making are apparently very, very easy to make. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. They got rid of the 714 and they left this crap. It's just awful. Well, Valerie, what they do is, and I've talked to people who said, you wouldn't even know. Like if you saw the tar and what it looks like, you wouldn't even know. Yeah, crime is money equals money for drugs. Booyah. That's a great comment, because what do people go to prison for? I mean, keep it real. Even the people who are in prison for things that have nothing to do with drugs. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not a drug smuggler. I wasn't growing it. I wasn't whatever, right? If you had nothing to do with drugs in any way, then chances are the crime you were doing was to pay for your drugs. It's just the biggest plague on communities and on towns and on families and on society. I mean, it really is. This is the biggest threat that we've ever seen to our country. And if the wave doesn't start with us, then it's not going to start, and we're going to lose our country. We really are. The rate at which people are dying, and it's not. The crazy thing is, the number of deaths don't seem to be scaring away anybody, right? We're not seeing the numbers plateau, which would be great. It would be better if they were declining, but we've not even gotten to a point in this country where we've stopped it skyrocketing. And how far is it going to get before we are able to get that under control? Will it be 1,000 people a day? Seriously, how far will we let it go before we maybe, I don't know, go down there and put troops on the border or do whatever we have to do to make sure that the crap isn't coming in here? Because it's chemical warfare. Call it whatever the hell you want. It's chemical warfare. They are attacking our country, and we're not alone. If you don't think this is chemical warfare, listen to this. Do you know what country per capita has a worse problem with synthetic opioids than we do here in our country? Israel. Because they're tucked right up close next to Mexico, right? No, because the people that are attacking us know that that's our army in the Middle East, right? That's our ally in the Middle East. So they're getting hammered. We're getting hammered. They're going after everybody that isn't China. And if that makes any of you uncomfortable, I'm really sorry, but it is a stinking fact. Carjacking, big money, absolutely. Or even the guys, these rings of guys that are going around and cutting off catalytic converters. I mean, you think the people that are crawling underneath the car to saw the catalytic converter off of your Prius, you don't think those people are doing that to try to get rich and live in a really cool house like you see in movies. They're doing that because they need to feed a habit. I'll tell you what, I'll put it up there like that, and then you won't have to repeat it. How's that, my friend? Canada is affected too. Are you kidding me? It is so affected. It is so affected. The Canada, especially when you get up around Vancouver. And I'll be honest with you, as bad as it is, Vancouver was actually a city that has done a pretty good job with how they have tried. They're not winning. They're not. But they've made a hell of a lot of a better effort than we have. When is all the weeks are in charge will be over? No, Canada's hugely affected, Michelle. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And it's frightening maybe to the degree that it seems there's a really good overlap between our two countries when it comes to the drug. K-Town Cosmic Gypsy. Yeah, when all the weeks in charge are gone, it'll be over. I would like to believe that. I really would. What needs to happen though, and this is why that and Heather, you might be right. There is a lot of that going on, especially, I mean, in different places, and you see this, like when Crocodile was was really like rampant, and you were hearing all of the horror stories about that in the 90s. And we've done shows on that. It's a desomorphine. It's a terrible bathtub version of desomorphine that was eating people alive. And it's like the mortality rate was like 99%. If you started shooting that stuff, most people were dead within 3 or 4 months. It was just awful. But there was such desperation at that time in that part of the world that people were like, screw it, and basically just shot themselves to death. And they lost a lot of people. And we recently did a show that although we don't have people getting busted for that, we have found like warehouses full of the chemicals to make it. So I'm telling you, people, if we don't get a handle on the war on drugs now, the drugs are just going to get scarier and scarier and scarier. And if you're sitting there going, Tommy, how in hell do we get a handle on the war on drugs? Okay. Say 10 feet in every direction. If your family knows, right? If your family is educated, if your friends are educated, if your friends know what's going on, if you've contacted the people that you know, the people that you love and that you care about, and you've said, man, you got to be hip to what's going on because the drug thing is going to get worse and worse and worse. And it could be your kids or it could be your friends or whatever. So I'm telling you, because it's that important and I care about you, that's how you fight. That's how you fight, because we're not going to win. So let's just at least try to save each other. A $1 high, says Ian. He says he talked to a security guard in downtown Portland, said that he has saved 3 people's lives in one day from fentanyl. He carries Narcan every day, even though he doesn't use it. It's not a joke. No. And there are people in certain places, like Vancouver's a really good example. Vancouver has a group of volunteers that actually go throughout the city to all of the places that drug users tend to congregate, and they kind of mill about with a backpack, and they hand out supplies to people that are living on the streets. They give them soap, toothbrushes, socks, things that people who are homeless really, really need, and then a crap load of Narcan, and they end up every single day, all of those people save somebody. Wait a second. James Novak is good. When was James Novak not good? Oh, man. I didn't know anything was going on with James. Would you please tell James that he's in our thoughts and our prayers? Man, I did not know that. That's for my man. Sorry, peeps. So this is absolutely 100%. This is the war. It really is. I'm not trying to be political. And you know what? Look, I didn't tell you that I think either of the people that are in the running for running this country are qualified to handle this thing at the border. I at this moment, I'm not seeing a lot of help from anybody. But I will tell you this: in the last administration, the numbers dipped. The overdose deaths dipped underneath the last administration for the first time in a long time. But they are on the rise right now, like a rocket ship. And if we don't do something pretty quick to get them back under control, there isn't going to be anything left to save. And that's all I've got to say about that. All righty, everyone. We will see you tonight at 5:00. Don't let them lie to you. For real. Even the CDC came out and said the numbers we've been putting out can't be trusted. Well, then why are you putting them out? Right? I mean, that was the CDC. I'm Captain Tommy. You got a whole lot of squirrel earlier when she was trying to destroy the house. I just realized I can't get high on any analgesics taking naltrexone. That is the reason the hospitals must know morphine will do nothing for me at this moment. Maybe it can help against fentanyl. Of course it can help against fentanyl. Yes, Cornelius. Absolutely, it does. It is one of the active ingredients in a drug called Suboxone, and they give it to people. There are people using that right now as a way to get off fentanyl. It's definitely a tougher run because it's a stronger opioid, but people are doing it, and people are doing it successfully. Thank you so much. The CDC sucks. Well, you know what? Let's leave that up there. We'll leave that one, huh? Let's go out with that one. Allison, Stacy, good to see you. All righty, everyone. We'll see you tonight on the boat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. Have a great day.